Alright, hey guys, so this is a 4.3 part 1 homework, and what we're going to do with this whole page is just arithmetic sequences, okay? And we're going to practice using the explicit formula for arithmetic sequences, okay? Now, we've filled out this foldable, so we have kind of all the information handy. Now, if you need to at the top of your paper, let's just write that formula down. We know that it's going to be AN, and this N stands for the term number we're looking for. It's going to equal A1, which is the first term of whatever sequence it is. We're going to add the difference, but then we need to make sure we're doing our parentheses here, and it's always N minus 1, right? So if I'm looking for the 20th term, I'd be multiplying it by 19. So let's go through this first problem, and let's see how to solve this one, okay? So the first thing that we need to do is we need to determine our common difference, okay? So in this case, if I'm trying to get from 1 to 4, I can see that I could add 3, and then I need to test it for the next term, and it looks like I definitely am adding 3 each time to get the terms, okay? So my common difference is 3, and if I'm going in and solving this for the 20th term, remember, I don't want to sit here and have to keep adding 3 over and over again to get to 20, to the 20th term. I just want to jump straight to that term, okay, in the sequence. So I would say A20 equals, and remember, it's going to be my first term in the sequence, which in this case is 1, plus the 3, and then in parentheses, it's going to be N minus 1. Well, my N in this case is 20, so it would be 20 minus 1. So when we go through and we simplify this, we're going to get 1 plus 3 times 19, and then from here we can just use our calculator, and we can say, well, 3 times 19 is 57, so this would be 57 plus 1, so we know that the 20th term in this sequence is going to equal 58, okay? And now you're going to do that for all of these problems. Go through and just practice writing out the formula, substituting in the term that you need, substituting in your first term of the sequence, and then also substituting in that common difference to be able to solve these problems. Now that is for homework 4.3 part 1. Now the next homework is we're going to look at 4.2, and this is, or 4.3, and it's part 2. Now this one, very similar, but we're just looking at geometric sequences. We want to use that explicit formula, and then they are telling us to round our answers to the nearest hundredth, okay? So we want to make sure that we go in and we kind of follow all these steps. So now let's look at your foldable that has the explicit formula for geometric sequences. So remember, it's very similar to arithmetic, where I am looking for a specific term. I'm looking for g of n equals, I need my first term in the geometric sequence, so we write that as g of 1, and then I'm going to multiply it by whatever that common ratio is, and then as my exponent, we're going to do the n minus 1 here, okay? So let's look at problem number 1. So when I look at this, to get from 3 to 6, it looks like I need to times that by 2. If I get from 6 to 12, I also have to multiply that by 2, okay? So in this process, I know that my common ratio is going to equal 2. I'm looking for the 10th term, so now we can go in and we can use the explicit formula to find that 10th term without having to go in and find all the ones before it. So we would start out with g sub 10 equals my first term in the sequence, which is 3. I'm going to multiply it by this common ratio, which is 2, but then in my exponent, I need to do that 10 minus 1, which we know that's going to be 9, so we would write it as g sub 10 equals 3 times 2 to the power of 9, okay? Now, the thing that you need to remember is PEMDAS. So remember PEMDAS, okay? So we don't have any parentheses, but this is the piece we have to remember. We have to remember the e, the exponent, okay? So before I can multiply 3 by 2 to the 9th power, I've got to take 2 to the 9th power first, okay? So we'll finish solving this over here, okay? So let's use our calculator, and we're going to go in and we're going to take 2. So remember, to use the calculator, we can do 2 and use the caret button to the power of 9 and hit enter. Here again, you can just take 2 to the power of 9. You're going to get 512. So from here, we are going to write the formula. So we're looking at g sub 10 equals 3 times, and 2 to the power of 9 gave us 512. And now we'll go in and multiply this by 3. And so we know that our answer in this case is going to be the 10th term in this geometric sequence is 1,536. Okay? And so now you're going to go through and use the explicit formula and solve the rest of these geometric sequences.